Today, we're digging into a really fascinating machine. It's maybe less famous than some Porsches, but incredibly important for their story in America.
Yeah, we're talking about the 1952 Porsche-Glöckler 356 Roadster, Glöckler Porsche number 3 specifically.
Right, and it's got this kind of dual identity, doesn't it? A German racing champion on one hand.
And sort of the secret grandparent of a car everyone knows, the Speedster, especially the American market Speedster.
That's exactly what we want to unpack today. How Walter Glöckler, this VW dealer and racer, worked with Porsche very closely, it seems, to build this thing.
And then how it slid across the Atlantic, landing with Max Hoffman. Well, it basically reshaped how Porsche sold cars in the U.S., a huge impact.
It really shows how sometimes these, extreme, almost one-off track weapons can end up paving the way for showroom models.
Definitely. So let's start back in Germany. Walter Glöckler, he commissioned several of these specials, right? What was the driving philosophy behind this particular roadster?
Competition, pure and simple. Lightness and performance were the names of the game.
Absolutely. And they started pretty conventionally, actually. A standard Porsche Cabriolet floor pan, same rear engine layout, trailing arm rear suspension. Everyone knew.
But the execution was anything but conventional. Herman Rommelow's team,
Yeah.
they really went to town on the lightning process.
Oh, totally. I mean, the sources say they took out everything non-essential, and then they started drilling holes in what was left, just shaving grams wherever they could.
Wow, just drilling into the structure.
Yeah, within reason, presumably. But what's interesting is despite all that, they kept a standard two-seat layout inside and that original floor pan structure. It wasn't a tube frame special or anything.
So after all that drilling and stripping, where did the weight end up?
Around 1,133 pounds. That's about 514 kilos. Which is, I mean, incredibly light, but it shows you still carry some weight when you start with the production base.
And the body itself was totally unique. Built by Weidenhausen, aluminum.
That's right. Looked kind of like a 356 from the nose, the family resemblance. But the sides and rear were pure competition.
Semi-skirted rear wheels, those cutaway corners at the back, features Glöckler had used before.
Exactly. Similar to his number 1 and number 2 cars. And crucially, for stability at speed, they added a full belly pan under the floor. All about aero.
Okay, now let's get to the engine. This is where it gets really specialized. Standard-ish Porsche engine,
Yeah.
1,488 cc, but the fuel.
Yeah, this is wild, tuned for high compression and specifically designed to run on alcohol fuel.
Why alcohol? Just for the power boost?
Pretty much. It got them up to about 86 horsepower, which was pretty strong for a 1.5 liter back then, but
Yeah.
and this is a big but. Alcohol is nasty stuff for engines of that era.
Corrosive, right. Especially to aluminum and magnesium parts.
Extremely. The sources suggest the original engine bits were basically eaten away, probably beyond repair. It was like, win now, worry later.
So how do they even manage the fuel system? Standard tanks wouldn't last long.
They couldn't use them. They had to fabricate these elaborate brass fuel tanks. Heavy, but resistant to the alcohol. They were apparently fitted around the spare tire well up front.
Wow. Heavy brass tanks just to handle the fuel needed for the lightweight concept. That really tells you something about the priorities, doesn't it?
It does. It was built to win, full stop. Not necessarily to last forever.
And when it did, Walter put his cousin, Helm Glöckler, behind the wheel for the main campaign.
Yep. And Helm really delivered. Big win in the spring of '52 at the Nürburgring. Won his class, set a new class record too.
And he was running an open top that day, no hard top.
That's what the records say. Yeah, no hardtop for that race. And that victory was a key part of him clinching the 1952 German championship overall.
It also shows how tight the relationship with Porsche was, even for a special.
Definitely. The car was apparently marked only with Porsche badges. No Glöckler branding on the outside. Porsche clearly approved and, wanted the association with the success.
After the championship, it had one more outing in Europe.
Yeah, a hill climb driven by Hans Stanek. He was involved with AMAG, the Swiss VW and Porsche importer.
Right, AMAG, and then the big move.
And then the big move. Sold overseas to the man who basically shaped Porsche's early image in America, Max Hoffman.
And it arrived complete.
Uh-huh.
With a hard top and those special wheels.
Yep. Came with the removable hardtop and a set of AFM magnesium wheels, ready for its next chapter.
Max Hoffman, the New York importer, with, let's say, a very specific vision for European sports cars in the U.S.
He knew his market. He knew Americans, especially club racers, wanted something raw, something light, often something cheaper than the fully trimmed standard models.
And he put the Glöckler car straight to work, didn't he? For publicity as much as competition.
Immediately. Its first major U.S. race was in May '53 at Bridgehampton out on Long Island.
Hoffman didn't drive it himself, though.
No, he put Johnny von Neumann in the seat, and von Neumann would soon become, a huge Porsche dealer on the West Coast himself.
How did von Neumann do at Bridgehampton?
Finished third in the 1500cc class. Respectable showing. But like you said, the real win was getting the car seen.
And it certainly got seen. That cover photo was a big deal.
Huge deal. September-October '53 issue of Sports Car, the SCCA magazine. Suddenly, all these American club racers are seeing this stripped-down, purposeful-looking Porsche Roadster.
And you can basically draw a straight line from that photo, that car, and Hoffman's influence.
Directly to the Porsche Speedster, absolutely. Okay. The Glöckler car was essentially the proof of concept Hoffman needed.
How so? What did it prove to Porsche back in Germany?
It showed them that a minimalist, lightweight, open Porsche wasn't just some weird German special. It had appeal. Hoffman was already pushing them for a cheaper, racier model for the U.S.
He wanted something under that magic $3,000 price point, right? With less trim, maybe removable weather gear?
Exactly. Things like no roll-up windows, a simpler top, maybe a cut-down windscreen. Things that made it lighter and cheaper to build. The Glöckler car, even though it was a custom build, looked the part. It validated Hoffman's idea that less could be more for American buyers.
So this one-off German racer, built with alcohol fuel and brass tanks, becomes the inspiration for a production icon. That's why this number 3 car is seen as probably the most significant of the Glöckler Porsches.
Without a doubt. And its own racing story didn't end with Hoffman. He sold it pretty quickly, actually.
To Fred Proctor Jr. up in Connecticut.
That's the one. And Proctor kept racing it through the '53 season. Did pretty well, too.
Yeah. The sources mention a second place at the Giants Despair Hill Climb. That's a famous one. And another second at Brynfyn Tidden Road Races in July '53.
Plus a third place at Thompson Raceway later on. So it's still competitive. But then, like a lot of old race cars,
it vanished for a bit.
Kind of went off the radar for a few years. Then it popped up again out in Denver, Colorado, around 1958.
Thankfully, in a dry climate. Did it pass through a few hands out there?
It did. Several Denver area enthusiasts owned it, including Bob Carnes for a while, the guy who built those wild Bocar fiberglass specials. So it was always recognized as something special.
Seems like its unique appeal kind of protected it, even when it wasn't pristine. Eventually ended up with Larry Braun.
Right, an automotive sculptor. He actually started a restoration, but it stalled for a long time. Finally, in 2000, it was acquired by someone serious about doing a full, proper restoration.
And that restoration was quite the project, wasn't it? Sent halfway around the world.
Yeah, all the way to Tempero Restorations in New Zealand. They're known for their expertise with, lightweight aluminum bodies and period-correct work.
They must have had their work cut out for them, recreating things like the hard top and those brass fuel tanks.
Oh, for sure. They aimed for absolute authenticity, right back to how it ran in 1952. A massive undertaking.
And the result. How does it look today?
Just stunning. It's finished in Porsche silver, black interior, and it wears that bright yellow noseband.
The Nürburgring livery from '52.
Exactly. The same look it had when Helm Glöckler was setting records. It's really a time capsule.
So when you wrap it all up, the 1952 Porsche-Glöckler 356 Roadster, it's much more than just a successful race car.
Way more. It was this extreme engineering exercise that paid off on the track, yes, but its biggest legacy was off the track. It gave Porsche and Max Hoffman the concept, really, for the Speedster.
A blueprint delivered by a racing special. It's a fantastic story of how track innovation can, sometimes indirectly, drive commercial success.
It really is. Which brings us back to something we touched on earlier, that whole idea of performance at any cost. Glöckler and Porsche worked together, but the key to the car's racing success, that corrosive alcohol fuel, basically doomed its original engine.
Right. It won, but it also self-destructed in a way.
Exactly. So it leaves you with a question, something maybe for you, the listener, to think about. Where do you draw the line? When you're pushing engineering, is it always about that absolute peak performance, even if it's not sustainable? Or is there more long-term value in designing for something practical, something that lasts? Which path really pushes innovation further in the end?
That's a great thought to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.